Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tokenomics and gameplay of Aether Games discussion. My name is Ari Kimmelman. I am a research analyst at Economics Design, and I'll be moderating the conversation today. Enzo Martin, who's an associate consultant at Economics Design, will also be joining in on the conversation. Enzo, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Ari. So, hi everyone, my name is Enzo, and again, for those tuning in, a big thank you for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us in this discussion. So, before we start, I just wanted to say that building any game is a complicated task, and there are a lot of moving parts and various factors that affect each decision of our game devs. So, similar to how countries run, right? Like we have our government that really helps us decide or decides what policies to implement in their country. And similar to game devs, there are a lot of policies that our game devs have to do in order to balance their game economy. And I think we have an interesting perspective for today. And Ari, do you want to introduce today's special guest?
Awesome, thank you. So today we are very excited to have Jens Peeters joining us. Jens is a renowned game developer and publisher. He has built himself a reputation after years as an esports celebrity manager and an internet marketing growth guru, specializing in esports, blockchain, and video games. He is currently the CEO of Aether Games. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Jens in our Discord chance event today. Jens, could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you. As you just mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of Aether Games. My name is Jens Peeters. I'm from Belgium. And next to this, I'm also an esports celebrity manager. And currently, I'm a little sick, so my apologies if I have to cough during this AMA. Just a small heads up.
So, to start off the conversation today, Jens, why don't you give us an overview of Aether Games and the team?
Aether Games itself is basically a collective talent of different individuals and studios coming together. These are three studios: Redrift, No One Studios, and Dynamic Augmented Solutions. And together we have experience working in EA Games, Riot Games, Hi-Res, Activision, Ubisoft, Plarium, Wargaming, basically many of the known studios. And together with this passion and years of experience, we are bringing Aether Games to life. And it's our goal to basically set a new standard in the crypto space. Because we've seen over the past 2 years that a lot of games are not really going forward with what they can do with Unreal Engine and Unity, and they kind of went backwards, building like small web games. So we want to make a difference here.
Mm-hmm. And so why did you decide to create Aether Games originally?
That was literally to show people that games can be a whole lot better utilizing the blockchain aspect of things. And in terms of visuals, we really saw an issue. Like all the games that we saw, they were basically buying certain assets from the Unity store, creating very, very stylized indie games. We are here to literally just blow it out of the water, show quality that hasn't been seen before, as people can see in our models as well. Currently, the models that we create are way above what is actually required in games. But that being said, we're building an asset, an IP for many years to come.
Cool. And so the team behind Aether Games, how did you guys all come to the conclusion that blockchain gaming was a good path to pursue?
I would basically say the fact that you have true ownership of everything and it's all more transparent. For example, I'm multi-rank 1 in World of Warcraft, but one of my accounts is banned. If all of that stuff was like truly mine and not like technically Blizzard's, I would still have the ability to play certain things, and now I just don't have access to that anymore. But blockchain just makes sense. It's a step into the right direction, and especially with the NFT market also. NFT is probably the biggest thing. Blockchain just adds a layer of security on top of it, which is always very important.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to Cards of Eternity, could you provide more detail about the game and what gameplay is like?
In terms of visuals, it's similar to Gwent, if anyone's familiar with that. In terms of gameplay, I would say it's similar to Hearthstone or Gods Unchained, as we need fast-paced matches in online game. We look at other games to learn from them, but ours is still quite unique. For example, we have, in this build that we have, the first one, the MVP, we have Sacrifices, which completely shifts the meta. And next to this, we have Graveyard Play coming as well, which is a rather unique element. It's something I like from Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, we'll keep building on top of it. So for everyone that played CoE, all of our partners, guilds, they're very keen on it.
Interesting. And how are new NFTs introduced in the market?
New NFTs are introduced in two ways. There is a crafting system that we have. So when we release, let's say 30 new cards, 15 of them are going to be available through simple booster packs that you can also pay with all the stuff that you earn from. And the other 15 would basically be through crafting. All the NFTs are deflationary in the sense where you can disenchant cards, get the material for it, use that material together with a token to craft a new card. So you could either hold all the cards right now, basically sell them in the future because the value might go up as the supply goes down, or you could simply disenchant and stay with the meta where it's shifting, go for all the new cards and craft them. And this is all cross-game as well, all of these materials.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, like how blockchain integration really mends with the gaming space. And we've done a little bit of research, Jens, and I just wanted to ask, we saw that the games are multi-chain. So if that's the case, how does gas fees work?
The token itself is multi-chain, but the game itself is on Immutable X right now, as we're partnered with them. We have our own little technical arm, which makes us EVM compatible for every single chain. It's more of a connection space for all the chains together. But that being said, using a layer 2, that basically defeats all the purpose of gas. The way Immutable works is basically a little bit off-chain. Any sort of cost that they have is more like on the RAM side. So yeah, there are basically no fees in-game itself. And it won't really make sense either, because in a card game like Cards of Eternity right now, it's all about speed. If you would have to do transactions here and there to play certain cards, that would not be doable.
But it is gonna be operatable in other chains as well, not just Immutable X, like somewhere down the line.
Yeah, that's in the future. Like currently we're partnered with Cards of Eternity, but any other game could be on any other chain as well. For example, we were in deep talks with Polygon. Polygon likes us to be like on their chain, but I like primarily on their chain. That being said, we're also partnered with Ultra.io, if anyone's familiar with them. And they have their own chain as well. So the fact that we're tapping into the Web 2 market and the Web 3 market, we need to make it as simple as possible for everyone. So being EVM on every single chain with the same address, that is the easiest. So people that enter the crypto space for the very first time, they don't suddenly lose any sort of funds.
So I have a question, which is, how does Cards of Eternity overall differentiate itself from its competitors in the main ways?
I would say mainly in the visuals, because right now we've only been in development for Cards of Eternity for 8 months. Gates of Eternity a little bit longer, series also a little bit longer, but in 8 months we have built quite a phenomenal product already. And next to this we add unique elements to it as well. We have the Eternal, which is a creature from Gates of Eternity, which is a pet in Cards of Eternity. The adventurer itself, the fact that it has its own element and its own passive, adds a lot of strategy to it. And then the sacrifice option and the ether source that you have also adds a unique element to it as well. The sacrifice, I would say, is currently the biggest thing that sets us apart, but it's something that other games can introduce also. So we always need to be ahead of the market and keep introducing new things. Next up being the graveyard play, which is very cool.
And so you mentioned Gates of Eternity there. I'm wondering if you could expand a little bit more on it and tell us a little bit of the differences between the two.
Cards of Eternity, as it says, is a card game. So basically think Hearthstone, and in Case of Eternity it's an Aether Battler, so think TFT, but we're taking it a little bit further than that. In TFT you just log in, you play, you're immediately in the match. With us you basically need to build a deck beforehand with creatures that are like babies, adult ones, all various types. Next to this, you also add bloodline glyphs to it, basically power-ups within the game. And then in the game itself, you can mix and match certain traits as well, like dragons, trolls, all of that stuff. You basically, per set, have a set of creatures that are from the game itself. And then you have your own deck and you cycle through it every single turn. And you accumulate souls to summon creatures that can evolve within that particular session as well. On top of that, every single creature has its own talent tree. So everyone is shaping their own NFT with the strengths that they wanted to have, like a lot of attack speed, healing reduction, just a lot of AD, like some tankiness, all of that stuff. There is a whole lot more strategy going on than any other auto battler that we've seen right now. But auto battlers itself, they're growing. Like we've seen in TFT, for example, every single set apart from set 2 has seen phenomenal growth. And they're adding some unique elements to it as well, which is very good to learn from.
You quite mentioned that there's this evolution system inside the Gates of Eternity game, right? So is it like if I evolve my creature, can I sell it on, since it's an NFT, can I sell it on the marketplace and it being an evolved creature already?
We will add an option for you to evolve it if you wish, but there's actually not that much difference like that. If you evolve a creature, let's say to the third evolution, that means you have Gates of Eternity. If you basically play with the baby version and you evolve it during that match, the one that is evolved is going to be a lot stronger than someone who already started with like a level 3 creature in that game. Outside of the game, they're back to what you originally started with. So you basically build your deck with babies, young creatures and adult creatures just to maximize your early game, mid game, and end game. It's a little bit strategic like that. You can build a deck completely with level 1 creatures. You will take a lot of damage at first, but your end game is absolutely solid compared to people that only use like level 3 creatures at the start.
That's very similar to like Pokemon, right? So when you catch a Pokemon at a higher evolution, it's not gonna be as strong as when you actually took care of it and evolved it from like the baby step.
Yes, it's similar to that. Pokemon works with individual values, like the IVs, I'm sure many are familiar with. With us, it's more like a talent tree, so you shape up your own creature. Just because you have this particular creature doesn't mean it's going to be weak, because you can make it stronger yourself. It has like some base stats at the start, but that's like, it wouldn't matter too much. It's only when some other guy has the exact same creature that if he has a little bit more AD than you, yeah, he's going to kill you like slightly faster, but it's like minimal things. It's for the people that really want to maximize absolutely everything. Think like World of Warcraft, where you can like RNG get gem slots on items. Some people want to get a gem slot on every single item and they're like try-harding for that. It's a good thing to put in a game, but it's unrealistic for most people to like maximize a certain thing like that.
So the original gameplay, moving on to a different topic here, the original gameplay the team envisioned for Gates of Eternity has changed over the course of the last year. I'm wondering if you could provide some insights in terms of why this happened. Was it a difficult change to implement, and some general information about it?
Yeah, so originally, as I mentioned, we wanted to go the Pokemon Go route. Then a lot of people already had concerns because COVID was at its peak. And next to this, during pre-production, we do a lot of market research about everything that we are about to do. And then we saw that Witcher had their own geospatial game, which Pokemon absolutely did phenomenal. Harry Potter then also tried to make a geospatial game and many others. And all of those immediately died. So it's a little bit bold to assume that if we create something with a similar playstyle like that, that's going to be a success just because we're on the blockchain. That being said, if you compare Pokemon Go, their models like a Charizard compared to the creatures that we have, it's a big difference. And it's also a big difference in cost because of that. So it won't really be a good investment from ourselves to create something like this as of right now. But in the future, we can do it. Especially with the AR glasses coming out, that's going to add a lot of value to it, basically. That being said, we are now creating models for literally any game in the future to come. All we have to do is scale down the topology. It does require some effort as well, but we are all about being as cost efficient as possible. And if our first game would be a geospatial game, it just really wouldn't make sense. That's why we had to pivot a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of these changes, how did your community handle these changes?
We honestly made a mistake of not telling our community absolutely everything that we were doing on the back end. As we are working on Cards of Eternity, Gates of Eternity, then we did a pivot for Gates of Eternity. Next to this, we're working on our own series also, which is like a big team and all in Paris. We have a small office there also. So I feel like we need to push the fact of what Gates of Eternity is like to the community right now. We actually have a new white paper made. We will be pushing that live. Actually, we'll do it today. The new white paper shows what everything is, what is going on in Gates of Eternity, Cards of Eternity, a little bit about series as well.
Very excited to read it.
It's not like a white paper like 2017 and stuff where it's like a wall of text. It's more of a fancy looking picture book right now, but it gets the message across. I'll send a link to you guys after.
For that, since you mentioned the white paper, I just wanted to ask, since you did mention that you wanted to talk to your community more. So like, apart from the white paper, what are some of the other things that you do to educate your community on, or to give more information to your community about what's going on or your team, basically?
Right now, it's actually doing AMAs. So as you know, I'm doing an AMA with you guys. I did an AMA with Polemos the other day. Did an AMA with Polka Starter last week, and we'll be doing more and more AMAs as well, both text and voice. And with this, and Twitter Spaces. And with this, we can actually communicate a lot more with the audience directly. And next to this, also Twitch streams, which is always fun to literally talk back and forth about what we're building, what we're working on, and how the games play as well. And next to that, like towards February, we'll be doing some sneak peeks from our show. And that's what's really going to blow people their minds. It's a very high production value. And all of that is basically funded through perpetual licensing deals that we have with very known streaming services.
So I'm curious to know, and I know we mentioned this a little bit earlier, about Auto Battlers. I'll start off by asking the question to Jens, and then Enzo, feel free to jump in here. I'm wondering what you think about the overall growth of Auto Battlers in the crypto space over the next couple of years.
I think in the crypto space, we haven't really seen an Auto Battler which really sets itself apart. Illuvium, close partner from us, I like what they're doing, but it's more of, that's just their combat system. They don't focus on Auto Battler, their focus is MMORPG. That's why it's taking so much time for them to build something, which, just to put it in perspective, normally it takes about 6 years to build like a proper MMORPG. They're like behind schedule, I would say, compared to what they said earlier, but they're doing quite well. I mean, knowing them personally. That being said, Auto Battlers itself, there is just a whole lot of stuff you can do with it, and it requires a lot of updates. You can't have those seasons run for like the full year or something. You need to have constant updates. And I feel like this is something the crypto market demands, like constant updates. It constantly has to be fresh, meta changes, all of that stuff. And next to this, you also allow for a lot of other companies to build certain apps that will integrate with the game or use API access from that game in order to educate people, which is a big thing.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think it's a really different kind of game in itself. Like for Auto Battlers, it's not an active kind of gameplay that you really have to strategize on the fly. Here, you really have to do a lot of theory crafting. You really have to strategize before you engage in like gameplay itself. And there's a niche, like a certain niche or group of people who really find enjoyment out of that. And I think pivoting to this kind of play style, given that there's no real market leader at the moment, at least based on my research, is a good way to go.
Yeah, it's true. Even in the normal gaming market, it's literally only TFT right now as for an Auto Battler. And they almost like killed themselves in set 2 because that was awful. But they recovered. And they have some really unique elements, so it's good to see all the stuff that they're trying.
Yeah, speaking of unique elements, like if you would compare your original idea to this new gameplay that's more aligned to TFT, what are some of the things that you brought into the new model, and what are some of the things that you changed?
Well, you're definitely not going out to play an Auto Battler. And then I would say what we kept in the core is basically the fact that you can evolve those creatures as well. And then we took a step further where instead of an IV, and there is still an IV involved, but it's literally the talent tree, like the succession path, the fact that you're shaping your own creature. 50 people might have the same creature right now, but all of those creatures are going to be completely different as they choose their talent tree. And there is a whole lot of different types of passive talents that you can really choose from also. Later on, we'll give an option to reset the entire talent tree as well, but at first, every single creature is going to be very, very, very unique.
Yeah, in terms of uniqueness, are there also rarity tiers for each monsters?
Yeah, but that's more like how literally based on the supply, right? Not every creature has the exact same amount of supply, so that's literally the only rarity. So yeah, other than that, there is not really a rarity, I would say. It's the same as in the card game. You have common, you have uncommon, you have rare, epic, legendary. Legendary, you can only have one card in your deck. There are only 9 legendary cards, so therefore it is more rare by default. And the supply is also very low from those.
Okay, it's good that you talked about supply as well, because I wanted to ask, like, how, for example, your community grows and there's mass adoption. How will you go about introducing new NFTs or new monsters inside your ecosystem? Is there like a breeding mechanic, or are you just going to introduce a whole new set of monsters per season?
Per season, there's definitely going to be a lot of new creatures and cards, depending on which game that you're playing right now. But we introduce them, as I mentioned earlier, like a part of them can be purchased through the in-game, and the other part would basically be through evolving not evolving, through crafting certain creatures. So in Cards of Eternity, as I mentioned, you disenchant cards, you get those materials, you use those materials to craft new cards. In Gates of Eternity, you basically kill the creature that you already had, drains essence, and with that essence and like an incubator plus token, you craft a new card. Now these materials itself, whether it's that essence or the vial from the cards, those together can also craft more rare creatures within a specific game. So that makes the entire economy cross-game also.
Okay, and that sacrificing aspect or that burning aspect is your safeguard for preventing NFT inflation in your economy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are there other features?
No, I just want to say, as we have more and more data, we also know how many NFTs to introduce, so everyone can at least play. But that being said, all the games are free to play, so you will always have your set of creatures to play with and to basically build your deck. There's a lot of strategy within the basic cards as well, but I'm sure over time a lot of people want to have a little bit more of the rarer cards, like at least one legendary card, for example, in Cards of Eternity would be very helpful, but it is not required. If I play against you right now with the basic deck, you can have all the epic legendary cards you want. I'm quite comfortable that I would still win just because I know the game a lot more right now.
Yes, so it's not really based on the cards, right? It's based on the player skill aspect to it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a little bit of both, but that's strategy games, right? So yeah.
I agree.
So I want to take the conversation in a little bit of a different direction and head into tokenomics. So I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit about your AEG token and how that's changed from the GOE token, as well as what the utility of the token is.
So it's literally a name change, to put it quite simple. GOE is now AEG, and that's simply because AEG is like Aether Games, and Aether is a mana source for the entire universe, and that's the token that we want to use everywhere. If everyone's seen our newest chest, for example, it explodes with like blue energy. That blue energy is also Aether. In Cards of Eternity, you have like Aether that you stack up every single turn as well. That's like the energy source. As for the utility, I would say the biggest thing is always that it's the crafting material. There is always a demand every time we do a new release for any sort of card, or even old ones if it's still available to craft. You need that token to craft. Next to this, you can also nest the token inside of cross-game dynamic NFTs that we call heirlooms, and those heirlooms give certain effects depending on which level they are. So it's a little bit time-gated. You nest tokens in them, and then it grows over a week, and next week it grows again and again and again, and we have this for every single element. And that adds a lot of utility to it. The fact that you can hold these tokens inside of this heirloom, and you can sell that heirloom with tokens nested in them as well, that adds for sure a lot of value to it. Then we also have a staking vault where we create NFTs literally for the people that are staking it in the vault. So in the future, if only one guy was staking it in the vault, only that one guy has these exclusive NFTs, so the value is quite high. Next to this, the AEG is like a native token for our entire universe. And this is a lot to get into, but we also have for every single season, there are multiple cycles within that season, and within that season you have multiple elemental type of tokens, and depending on which elemental type of token that you have, you can buy certain assets. For example, like the Air Adventurer or a specific type of Eternal as well. Then if you're in the next cycle and you want to go back to the previous one, you're basically trading these elemental tokens with each other. And think of it as like AEG being like the Bitcoin above all of that stuff. Because at the end of the entire season, you can go back into AEG. But there is an entire ecosystem that we have in-game and then outside of the game for investors as well.
Interesting. And so why did the team elect to use the token model that they did?
This is something that we worked on together with Delphi and many other partners. And this is basically to just set ourselves apart from all the other games that we've seen right now, because trust me, you haven't seen this token model yet. And next to this, our games are not web-based, our games are not mobile-based. You don't connect your MetaMask or anything like that, it's desktop. The fact that we use this token model adds another layer of security, which is extremely important in crypto. And next to this, it also doesn't limit us to any sort of jurisdiction, because it's not really like a security token, as the US would say, basically. It's different than that. But the biggest thing for us, honestly, it's the layer of security on top of it. It's a little bit centralized, decentralized, but that's honestly necessary in games. Can't have absolutely everything decentralized when your focus is esports and a lot of competitiveness. That being said, we do have a DAO in place that has a lot of say on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. It's very well demonstrated that the team has thought out the tokenomics for this game very well. I want to ask a concluding question for today, which is, what is next for the team and Aether Games?
Basically build and expand. Right now we're already working on the bigger update for Cards of Eternity. This will include the crafting already, a questing system, a referral system, and a lot more cards to come. In the MVP we have 150 cards and we're going into closed beta by Saturday, actually this Saturday. We just want to test a build that we have right now. That being said, you can see a lot of gameplay already on Twitch. I can also send you a YouTube link if you want to see me playing it. And yeah, next to that is basically we're working on our CGI series, and that CGI series is something that will be coming later this year, but it's going to be a lot better than expected. Trust me. If you like the CGI that we already created, this one it's a whole other production value.
Awesome.
So Pixie has a question. What was your experience of starting up Aether Games? Was it tough, and how did you make it? Just for anyone who's not reading the channel, I'll just read it out first.
Yeah, it was actually not that difficult for me because I'm an esports celebrity manager, and that gave me a lot of connections. I know TSM, I know G2, I know Fnatic, and next to this I know a lot of agencies in the esports world, and with that comes a lot of game development also. So, for example, we did a teaser for Ninjas in Pajamas, one of the esports teams, and the team that does all the CGI and all the models and all that stuff. They're connected in the same space as I am. So for me, it was a little bit easier, just because I've been in this space already.
The next question is, do you have any tips for young entrepreneurs from Serial Skiller?
I would say to learn from other people their mistakes like crazy. Like, I actually started my entrepreneurship, let's say, on a website called Black Hat World. I'm not saying do any sort of black hat stuff, but there are like a lot of things you can learn, even like simple drop shipping and whatnot, from other people that already did it. And you kind of build from that. At the start, it's always going to be difficult. I literally started my entire career with €0, living with my parents. Absolutely had nothing. Here and there, did some affiliate marketing into making a little bit of money, invested that into some Instagram accounts. I started growing with certain tools, and I started selling Instagram accounts. I sold those, and I started an e-com shop. That e-com shop did decent. Then I scaled that, was starting to make like decent amount of money. And with that, I basically built more and more and more. In the crypto space itself, I've been in there since 2017, more as a trader, but even with trading, I feel like I learned a lot. I would say always learn from other people. Most people already did what you're trying to do, so you don't have to follow their mistakes. We have Danny as an advisor from Illuvium, and trust me, if Illuvium makes a mistake, we know not to follow them in those mistakes. And that honestly saves you a lot of money.
Time as well, right?
Yeah, time is a big thing. We'll do a giveaway for some beta keys with the group here.
Nice. So Zelenario said, oh, it's not the question, but he says, looking forward to the beta. So Jens, like, you might want to talk a little bit about that beta as well. Like, how will people get access to it?
We have founder packs. It's like any game, basically gives you like a little bit of stuff in game that you can only get through the founder packs. Next to this, we do a lot of giveaways for beta keys also. The first 2 weeks of the beta will be with 2 starter decks. Everyone has access to these starter decks. People can get familiar with the game. People can play the tutorial. They can know what like supremacy, bloodlust, all of that stuff is in the game. And then afterwards, we unlock every single card. Anyone can create any deck that they want, and then we do all the balance testing in those 2 weeks, because we will clearly see which cards are broken. I already know which card is too strong. After those 2 weeks, we close the closed beta, and then we prepare for TG together with the MVP release. That's for COE, beta keys.
So the beta is for COE, not for Gates of Eternity yet.
No, Gates of Eternity, we have a lot, all of assets ready, but something like that takes a whole lot more time. Like one creature, for example, you need to have a concept art for it or an illustration for it. Then you need it from every single angle. Then you need to sculpt it. Then you need to define that sculpt. Then we do everything in 3ds Max as well, so not in the usual tools. Then you need, if the creature has like, for example, hair here and there as well, or it's all hair, that requires someone else, because people usually have sculpts like the hair by itself is like a different skill set. Then you need someone working in like 3ds Max, V-Ray, or Matrix, all of that stuff. So it takes time just to create one simple little creature. It's a whole lot different than people in the NFT space making these very stylized profile pictures.
And I think Richard's also asking if you could elaborate on the giveaway. He wants to win that beta key.
Well, that's on the economics design. I'll give economics design a couple beta keys and they can raffle it between you guys.
Be active in the Discord, guys.
The Yurtlex, wondering if Universe will have a pre-launch for supporters. We will have a pre-sale for those owning GUE Genesis NFTs, but that GUE Genesis NFT gives you a ticket to the pre-sale, and it also gives you access to the DAO, which we have like on the front end already, and the back end also actually. We just haven't pushed it live yet. And next to this, these are creatures, like very rare creatures that wouldn't disenchant within Gates of Eternity as well, because that supply is always going to be kept.
Okay, so thank you, Jens, so much for coming on the Discord chat today. And we loved learning about the gameplay, the tokenomics, the team, the decision-making that the team does as well. And that concludes our tokenomics and gameplay event today. We would also like to take this chance to share with you that we're going to be launching a GameFi course on Economics Designs Academy. This is to the listeners, and it's titled The Ultimate Guide to the Economics of GameFi and Metaverse Design for Beginners to Advanced Learners. This course is perfect for those who are looking to learn more about gaming economics, so stay tuned to our social media or Discord channel for upcoming announcements on the launch, Once again, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you are interested to hear more content like this, don't forget to join our community by following our Twitter and our LinkedIn account. Our Twitter account is called Econs Design, and our LinkedIn, you can search Economics Design. Last but not least, we highly appreciate if the attendees could fill up a feedback form, which will take no longer than 1 minute of your time, and Krista will be posting that in the chats section on the Discord channel. Thanks, everyone.
Guys, that's how we'll know who to give the beta keys to. So don't forget to fill that up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.